It don't matter if you did either one, but I was not.
I know, I need a one, never win. Yeah, then. They wouldn't have to split. And there was everybody that if you want to split everybody, I'll be there. Now 5 people was there and then they was the first one there all day. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It wasn't that everything. That's what we started.
I can remember coming here, there was nobody here. It's all up and coming.
Damn.
You know, I'm not gonna table it.
Might be a little bit.
We'll never get back.
Yeah, it ain't never been me.
It's, this time I have 6 p.m. and I'll call to order regular meeting of the Grayson County Board of Supervisors for April 13th, 2023. If you wouldn't mind, asked Pastor Osborne if you wouldn't mind leaving us an invocation. Mr. Smith does the honors for us, but he's not here with us, so we have some pastors here.
Let us pray.
Heavenly Father, we do this, thank you for this day, Lord, the blessing of it. We know each day, each breath is given to you, and God, we give you praise for that. Lord, we thank you for this wonderful county that we live in. What a blessing it is to hear in these beautiful mountains. God, we thank you for our board here, Lord, these men who faithfully serve you. You tell us in Romans 13 that the governments are what you give us, and those are your ministers, your servants. So we thank you for these servants of yours that serve this county. We ask that you be in the midst of this meeting tonight, that everything that we say and do will be done decently and in order, and you may receive honor and glory and praise. In the precious name of Jesus Christ, I pray.
If you will, join me in the pledge of allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would have everyone, if you have an agenda with you, to recognize the quorum, which is printed on the back. We do have several people that are here. I don't know how many of you have signed up to speak during public comment period. If you have not, we do have a sign-up sheet outside in the full lobby. But would ask that everyone be respectful, as each one may have participated in that portion of our meeting tonight. And also that everyone please be respectful of our presenters and that will be presenting before the board tonight. This time I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda that we have before us.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Chair also aye. First item of business will be reports, presentations, or requests. Our first presenter is Chris Collins, Executive Director of Chestnut Creek School of the Arts. An update with Chestnut Creek School of the Arts. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your support. So I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. So my presentation covers all that Chestnut Creek School of the Arts does. We were formed as a vehicle by the city of Galax as a vehicle to stimulate growth in the economy. It has become as much or more about community development. We are our own nonprofit. We offer classes, events, exhibits, and sales in pottery, wood, painting, glass, fiber, music, and much more in our downtown campus. We have wood and pottery as separate studios, with the main building being the first banking Galax. That building is celebrating 100 years this year, so we are working on a little bit of a capital campaign to build our sustainability. And Chestnut Creek this year is celebrating its 15th year in existence, so it's a monumental time for us. It was an idea many years ago, and we're a full-fledged operation, so we're celebrating those accomplishments. Chestnut Creek School of the Arts is where art is for everyone. Our classes are designed year-round for all ages and skill level throughout the Twin County, as well as within an hour and 2 hours. And the economic development aspect is providing revenue and earning potential in both sales of items. We have a gift shop in our main building, as well as through teaching. So it's very much a mentorship scenario, and we celebrate every person who's taken a class at the school. We have a model where they can come and use the equipment, use the studios to build their skills. We partner with the Crossroads Institute and Small Business to help artists developing what it means to get themselves into business. So every working, living, earning money business is a model child in a lot of what we're doing in the community. In addition to generating revenue for our instructors and consignment artists, we provide student discounts for students who do come to a class over the lunch hour, and that provides discounts for lodging, shopping, dining in the area, which is another layer of the economic development aspect. Virginia Commission for the Arts has a Creative Communities grant, which leverages municipal funds dollar for dollar, and you have been very supportive for us throughout the years, and we appreciate that. We have significant amount of both consignment artists as well as instructors, as well as students participating in the school. So it's very much a regional effort. And as a city employee from the city, I thank you for your continued support of this endeavor because it's in partnership that it makes it work. So the two things that the VCA, Virginia Commission for the Arts, asks for these grants to leverage your support is what our impact is and how do we track that. So in my handout that I provided you, our impact, we have in this last year alone welcomed over 1,276 people in the main building. That is the main building only, that's not the pottery or the wood. We had over 644 students last year taking classes. Many of them are repeat students. We generated $32,647.46 in consignment sales, 22,000 of which is paid directly to the artists. As far as salary for our instructors, we generated $26,144. Again, that's money paid directly to instructors for their teaching for us. And the last quantifiable data I have for you tonight is as reported on evaluations. After each class, we ask students, how was their experience? Was it a good one? Would they recommend it? How was the price point? And by the way, what did you spend when you're in the area? Because the economic impact is important. So everybody doesn't do that. Of what we've gained, we've been able to report $8,068 spent as a direct result of the class. The next question was how we evaluate our impact. We track and report monthly to our nonprofit board of directors. I have to correct that, it's not monthly, it's quarterly. And we ask each student to provide feedback. We also work anecdotally with our teachers in terms of what's working and what's not. So we have a pretty healthy continuous improvement in our internal administration. I've provided several handouts. I have provided a trifold of all the reasons people should come visit us when they're in town. And on the back of that trifold are our studios and our schedules and our open studio schedules. We do have 3 pretty exciting community service projects. By that meaning it's free for people to come make those. We've got some gypsy flower carving this summer, which will be at the Wood Studio. The pottery has been making empty bowls for years. And our fiber studio is embarking on a knots and needles project, providing blankets for homeless, hospice, and newborns. We're also making backpacks for foster kids. So those are all free to come be part of it. It's community building, and that's been growing in interest and participation. We're real proud of. The other thing I had given you is a class by design brochure. That is a model and an option which we are really finding a lot of interest in, both for individuals, if you have a family reunion or a wedding party and you want a class specific for a group. It also does tailor well for special needs groups, etc. Nonetheless, that's a great thing I wanted to share with you. I have provided an invitation to each of you to join us or consider joining us for our anniversary gala coming up. It's April 22nd. It's next Saturday. As a nonprofit, we do fundraisers on a regular basis. This is our anniversary gala. It is a sock hop. It is poodle skirts are encouraged but not required. But that's going to be a fun party. And then I also included a card about a really significant quilt exhibit we have in place. Professional, non-traditional quilter is now retired, and as she put it, has gone rogue. So they're very large, they're very colorful, and they're really spectacular. So that alone is a reason to come visit if you haven't. But I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have and appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight.
Am I missing, is there a specific ask here that you're for support?
We have an annual request of Grayson County as a leveraging through the Virginia Commission for the Arts Creative Communities, which match dollar for dollar. And Grayson County has been consistent in supporting us at the amount of about, I believe, $5,000. I think it's 4,000. I beg your pardon.
Okay. And those 644 students, do you know how many of those are Grayson?
We don't break that down.
Okay.
We do focus in our quantifiable data of who's in the area and who's outside. We don't break down between Carol Grayson and Galax.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
What's your, have you returned back to your numbers
after COVID?
From the before time?
That's a really good question. I think that's notable to say that we survived COVID. We still exist. And I will also say that we are also house of the Galax Jam, which the majority of them folded during COVID, so that's still alive. The Jam is now maxed out at 35 kids, and we did 2 before. Whereas our numbers are still climbing. It's a different culture, and it's taken everything to stop it all, to start it all. But we've got a really good team. I will say too, as a result of COVID, I was the only full-time staff, and that really took its toll. I have a very receptive board, and I basically put the little white flag and said it's not healthy to rely on one person to keep a place alive. So we have effectively hired another full-time person. Cheers, please. Thank you. And as a result, we're really seeing the impact of what we can do now that we have more people. So thank you for asking.
I know I took advantage of your wood shop. There's a lot of some projects that I've worked on that
Good.
I didn't have the equipment maybe that I needed to do what I wanted to do. And it's a pretty nice shop if it gets opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Under new business, I have a resolution intent to abandon portion of Dixie Road. That's right.
Thank you all. If you will recall from our March meeting, I presented a letter from Ms. Margaret Bliss and Mr. William Elliott requesting a portion of Dixie Road to be abandoned. And that particular request was granted by the Board of Supervisors last March. And I'm here tonight to present that resolution. If I may, I'll read it. So our resolution and notice to intent to abandon a section of Dixie Road from the secondary road system of state highways. Whereas it appears to this board that secondary highway route 756 from the Virginia state line of Grayson County to 3,179 feet for a distance of approximately 0.602 miles serves no public necessity and no longer necessary as part of the secondary system of state highways. Now therefore, be it resolved, the clerk of the board is directed to post and publish notice of the board's intent to abandon the aforementioned segment pursuant to section 33.2-909 of the Code of Virginia of 1950 as amended. Be it further resolved that a certified copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Commissioner of the Virginia Department of Transportation. Does the board have any questions?
For clarification, we'll pass this resolution, when you post something out on our roads, is that how it works?
On this particular section, we do have the option to post on the front door because this is in a field. I don't feel it's necessary to post on the public highway.
But that's the next step.
That would be the next step. So the resolution and then a 30-day post to the front door of the courthouse steps.
And then what?
And then we submit all of that. If we've not had a public hearing request, it will then be submitted to the Virginia Department of Transportation for consideration.
Right.
Anyone else?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion before the board to approve the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, this will require a roll call vote. Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Fan?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Miller? Aye. Chair also aye.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jay.
Next, under new business will be board appointments. Mr. Board?
Well,
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Appreciate everybody coming out. First thing we're talking about is board appointments. You have a list in front of you. For the most part, proceed solid waste, Crossroads. Child Services, Mr. Chair of the board, I would like to appoint myself as primary rep and Mitch Smith as the alternate rep. The EDA. We currently have two members, Joe Killian, his term ends 4/13, and Jonathan Warren his term ends 4/13 as well. Would you like some discussion on the non-voting members, Jason Bumgarner and Darren Young, or would you like to talk about this at a different time?
I think kind of as we've done there, as we've had the ones that were non-voting, they were kind of sitting in the wings waiting. And looking at it, and would put one on the board from the Old Town District, which currently does not have anyone. And then, because Mr. Killen, he was formerly in the Old Town District, but after redistricting, ended up in the Providence District. And then I think you have 3 positions currently on it. I think so. And then that would put 2 in Wilson. So if y'all have any discussion.
Well, did Mr. Warren want to renew his or continue?
If he's willing to, yes.
So I guess it's been customary, we've done board appointments. If someone's already currently serving and they ask to continue,
Yeah, that's right.
that's usually honored. Because he did a short term for Ms. Blevins, fulfilling her final term. So I don't know why we wouldn't continue with him if he's willing to continue in that role for one more term.
And I may have misspoke. Yes.
Since Joe Killen was the Old Town rep and got swapped around, and now Jason Bumgarner is the Old Town non-voting member, I would like to put Jason in as a voting member in Joe's place.
So then we end up with Joe and Jonathan for the EDA for this.
Jason and this one,
Sorry.
Joe,
And John.
or Jonathan is.
You want to give it a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So there was one position that we did look at, that was the one with the Mount Rogers Mental Health Community Services. I found notes this earlier that Ms. Bishop preparing to retire, so she would no longer. That's correct. No, so.
Has there been any interest in that?
We had one, that's Sharon. That's Sharon.
I'm good with that.
Oh, that's right. We did get that later than we did after we sent out the agenda.
Is it critical? I mean, is there any reason not to go ahead and, if you all got the thing and we all seem to be okay with eventually, you know,
I guess at this point, Chair would entertain a motion to accept the board appointments as presented. Any further discussion?
I would just like to note, even though those applications might come in after the agenda, folks may not know those are open. Just note.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Chair also aye. Thank you, sir. You have the next item here, the PPEA process procurement for broadband.
Yes, sir. So I did send everyone out the PowerPoint on this. We have it up. I think one of the things that I guess I'll say from my background is federal government had lost the ability to move quickly I was fortunate enough to meet with a few folks. One of them was a man by the name of James Mattis, who was the Secretary of Defense at the time. And he said this is one of the biggest failures that the government's currently dealing with. Is the inability to move with speed and the inability to think through technology, because technology is moving so quickly. Mr. Rebels brought me this. I kind of studied it for a little while and met with our attorney on this. That was an interesting way to think about procurement. So if you look at the first slide, in 2002, the Commonwealth of Virginia's legislature, they passed this act that allows government entities to procure selected services in a different manner than formally dictated by the Virginia Purchasing and Procurement Act, which was passed in the 70s. So nothing had been really updated until the 70s. The new act recognized that for certain types of services, it was better to allow government entities to solicit and or accept unsolicited proposals for services that include as one package for the architectural and engineering design, construction, and management of the services without having to split into 3 or more pieces and put forth RFPs for each separately. Since this act has been enforced, the premise that the approach leads to better quality projects at lower costs have been proven over and over again. If you research this act, you'll find that there's north of 200 projects that have been procured using this act alone. Over between 85 and 90% of Virginia counties have adopted this process. It is used for the purposes stipulated in the act. Next slide, please. The PPA procurement process can only be used for certain types of products. Once a solicited or unsolicited proposal is received, the administration has the authority to accept or reject the proposal, and it then must publish the proposed concept via the newspaper and the Virginia procurement website for 45 days to allow other vendors to submit counter proposals. At the end of the period, the administration may have conversations with one or more of the vendors as part of the due diligence process. If it is warranted, the best proposal is then presented to the board of supervisors for the review and approval or disapproval. So the great thing about this is we can accept unsolicited proposals if there's something that's out there that somebody wants to do. The school's looking to build a wing on the school. It's certainly been, I think, Loudoun County's used this twice. There's a county in Chesapeake, Gloucester County's used this in school districts. So it gives us some flexibility when we're thinking about procurement. Next slide, please. And so I would recommend that the board of supervisors adopt this procurement process to provide management with the best tools available to procure the anticipated services required to achieve one of the goals in the county's comprehensive plan. Provide the infrastructure required to provide redundant and reliable communication systems to support universal access to broadband cellular and emergency response services. I believe that our county will benefit as dozens of other Virginia counties with high quality service deployment and at a lower cost. We certainly ran this by the attorney, and he provided us with a resolution. I have the resolution. If you would like me to read it, or if you'd like to have some discussion. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Grayson County, Virginia is the governing body of Grayson County, Virginia, and is a responsible public entity under the provisions of the Public-Private Education Facilities Infrastructure Act of 2002, Chapter 222.1, Title 56, Code of Virginia, 1950, as amended. Whereas the Act provides an expeditious and efficient procedure for consideration and development of public infrastructure and capital projects and partnerships with willing private entities, but it does not bind the board to consider any project, and whereas the Act requires that a responsible public entity, prior to requesting or considering any proposal for a qualifying project, must adopt guidelines to guide its discretion in such consideration. The draft guidelines have been presented to the board for consideration, which we have. Now, therefore, the Board of Supervisors of Grayson County, Virginia hereby adopts the guidelines for implementation of the Public-Private Infrastructure Facilities Act of 2002 in the form attached to this resolution as attachment A, which shall be kept among the papers of the board and posted to the county's website for public view. And this will be adopted by the Grayson County Board of Supervisors on 13th of April.
Chair, entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Okay. Discussion.
I just got a question. You may have hit this already.
Yeah.
I'm in the kindergarten mode. How does this differ from the current procurement? Just briefly.
Yeah, I think the main thing, Tom, you want to jump in here? I think the main piece I see, go ahead.
Supervisor Anderson, there are basically two ways that it differs significantly. Number one, under the old procurement, you could not have the same company design, build, and operate any service. You had to have at least 3 different RFPs, and depending on the technology requirements, many times you ended up with 5, 6, or 7 RFPs. Now, the problem with that is in certain specialties like technology, if you look at private industry, the companies that design also build and operate, for example, Verizon, US Cellular, T-Mobile, they won't even entertain looking at somebody else designing a system that they didn't have to build because there's so many incongruencies of how those things can happen that raise the cost and make it difficult to be successful in building. The second thing is the state recognized that with technology, most counties don't have enough money to do everything under one contract. And under the old procurement process, if you let an RFP, there was a drop dead date at which time you had to go out for an additional RFP to cover a technology solution across the county, unless you could pay for it all at one time. And what counties began to realize was somebody might come in as a low bidder, propose an entirely different technology that would not interface effectively with the older technology. So with this, literally the county could enter into an agreement and hypothetically, if you decided you wanted to do something in one area of the county because you have the money and there's a tremendous need, you could then enter into an agreement, but then off of that same agreement, you could do a second, third, or fourth phase as money's available and continue with a consistent system across your county. So those are the two things that make technology in this very, very important. Okay, thanks.
I think it's just more of a comment. I think, we started looking at this back in 2018 and, life got in the way. But I think as we're trying to work on the communication infrastructure plan with broadband, cellular, and the 911 piece, having this capability or authority is, I think, really going to help us as we move that, continue to work on those projects. I think the bottom line for me is that the county is really accepting authorities that the state has already offered to give us. We just have to take it on, and I think it gives administration a lot of flexibility in looking at different options when it comes to
Any further? Have a motion before the board to adopt the resolution. Roll call.
Yeah.
Chair also aye. So, it's into county administrator's report.
All right.
Yep, there.
I'll stay. All right, a couple, so this is my first shot at this, so you might have to give me a little grace. I'm not sure I'll follow the script that you're used to, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, a couple personnel items real quick from me. We did hire an IT person, Christian Barnard. is the young man's name. He's just graduated from Radford University for our GIS position that we lost. He is from the area, has family in the area, and decided to come back. So we're excited to have him help us out there. As everyone knows, Miss Lisa is decided to leave us after a lot of years of faithful service, and we are going to miss her. We're going to miss her tremendously. However, as always, we all have to move on, and we've announced for that position, and we're conducting interviews next week. We should have a decision within the next 2 weeks about the replacement. We'll try to be. How about that? So, and at the next board meeting, we will have a public hearing on whether or not to establish a wired authority. I messed up the administration, messed up the timeline a little bit. We thought it was going to be this time, but it will be next meeting in May. Any questions on that?
Do you have another position in IT?
Nope. It's just a backfill for the GIS position. Oh, do we have another? Oh, you're asking me if we, are you asking me, do we add a position?
No, do you have another open position that you need to fill?
We do. Okay, yeah, we do. Okay. All right, first thing, I've been here 5 weeks. Is that right? 5 weeks. And I'm thankful. I'm so thankful to be here. I appreciate everybody having me. We've had some good discussions with a few people here, and I'm so glad to be here. I can't tell you how glad I am. So I guess the first thing I want to say tonight is I want to thank the board. We all understand the responsibilities, and Pastor Osborne, we talked about them for just a second there. They are significant. There's the work they do is significant, setting policy, appropriating funds, adopting ordinances, things such of this nature. What I can tell you is, and I wasn't aware of this, and I'm not sure the citizens are aware of this, so how much time they get. Some of these men are relentless public servants for the citizens of this county. We all should understand that they put a lot of effort, energy, and time into their position. I don't know if I could do it, but they do it for almost nothing. We should be thankful for what they do. Second thing I'll talk about is communication, a little bit of communication tonight. I've spoken about this. You'll hear me talk about communication all the time. In my last position, I had about 5,000 employees. And one of the things I used to like to say is I want to touch as many of them as early and often as possible. In other words, I want to touch them with communication. In my first few weeks, one of the things I think we struggle with is communication. We have a website that needs a lot of work. We need to be able to hang documents so people can take a look at them and go, hey, I can review this myself, and I'm not hearing this just from Steve or Linda or the board. So we're going to put some energy and effort into that. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to have some town hall meetings from different parts of the county. The first one is at White Top. I think it's important for me, and I think it's important for all of us to have face-to-face interaction and for us to get out there and talk to the citizens. So you'll see a series of meetings that are going to be taking place for the next couple of months. I would encourage you all to come out. And if you know somebody that's in the area, tell them, hey, it's just face-to-face interaction. For me to gather data, it's hard to, I can put surveys on the website, but if people don't have internet, it's hard for them to answer those surveys. A couple of things. I want to highlight one area tonight that I think's been pretty productive, and I'm just going to lay it out a little bit differently, just so you know. So bear with me as I walk you through this. I came from an organization that thought about people, the movement of people into the country. Now I'm thinking about how people move domestically. So a couple quick reads is what we do. I got a chart up here, but let me walk through that first. So internal migration patterns after World War II were pretty basic. We were a rural country, so people were moving outwards. They were moving to the west because of the vast amount of land we had. From 1910 to 1970, America went through what's called the Great Migration period. About 6 million Black Americans. They moved from the South, the North, the Midwest, and West to cities. And they moved because of industrialization and the oppression of Jim Crow that was taking place. And it was one of the most significant internal migration periods of our history. Okay? After this, the trends, they pretty much normalized. They stayed the way they were. And people were centralized in cities those areas, the Northeast, Midwest, and West. In fact, if you take DC for like 500 miles around it, you have the vast majority of people in that area, AOR right there. The patterns were clear and consistent. People were moving closer to cities for jobs, for lifestyle. Now, this trend is not reversed. Even when we had a major housing market crash in 2000, the trend stayed the same. When the pandemic struck, people said, I'm going to buck this. I'm going to buck almost a century of American migration history and move in the opposite direction. And I'm going to move to where there's space. The U.S. Census Bureau came out with some fascinating data I looked at the other day, highlighting 2 straight years of massive migration change. In 2019, before the pandemic, smaller counties like us, fewer than 30,000 people, lost population. However, during the peak of the pandemic, between 2021, that completely flipped. The least populous counties were gaining people for the first time in a long time. Now, that's not us. Not yet. Right? Now, this has slowed somewhat. The trend is still consistent. It is a consistent trend. And just as interesting to me, counties with 1 million plus people were losing people at a slower rate prior to the pandemic, but the outflow has exploded post-pandemic. And the South happens to be a booming area. And if you look at this map, I just posted a couple of maps. I haven't done PowerPoints in a while since I was kind of a staff officer. But I threw a couple up there. Anyway, if you look at these dark blue areas, you can see hot spots. Blue areas were hot spots. Where people are moving out of, people are moving into. Blue areas. Tennessee, Florida, Carolinas, Georgia, South Carolina, Texas, of course, everybody loves Texas, right? Even in Florida, even if you look at Florida, which is booming, people are moving out of Miami-Dade County into suburbs and surrounding areas. Now, what I'm trying to show is that people want to leave major cities. They do. They want to get out of that. A lot of us have. A lot of Grayson, right? And Grayson has a lot to offer. Grayson has a lot of opportunity. We need to grow our population. Our population, if you look at population growth, we're actually almost an inverted pyramid right now. You need to have young people coming up in your county to support the older people as they grow older. Right now, it should almost look like a pyramid or impact or a column. We're inverted right now. So we need to do some work to change that. I think we all know this, right? I believe that technology can help our growth. Whether it's broadband, wireless, or some new technology that we haven't seen yet. I think that can help change our population growth. I know we have talked a lot about broadband. There's a lot of consternation about it, but I still think we have to really stay focused on that, on our objectives, which are all still clear. We want to expand broadband to 100% of our population, our residents, eliminate communication barriers, particularly in the western end of the county, and improve cellular connectivity. All right. Next, I want to pull a little bit about tourism. When I think about people moving, you think about Charlotte, a place like Charlotte, 100,000 people a year moving to Charlotte. 100,000 people a year moving to Charlotte. 80-some thousand people moving to Raleigh right now. So people moving. How can we take advantage of this? Hopefully, one of the ways is through tourism. Governor Youngkin's a big fan of tourism. He spent a lot of money into tourism. I looked at some of our data the other day. Since 2018, we've had $380,000 grants for tourism. $380,000. Grants to me build infrastructure. That's important for the county. It builds stuff that can last. I threw some numbers up here that I thought were good to know. All right. Here's our spending. 2016, 9 million. Visitor spending. This came off the state website. Visitor spending was at 9 million. 2021, 12.9, almost $13 million of visitor spending. Lodging 6.2, retail 2.5, food and beverage 1.8, transport 1.9, recreation $500,000, and it lays out your employment. Direct employment, 68 jobs. I think it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of. I think we have to think about how we want to look at that in the future. So for me, when I talk about communication, this is just my way to communicate to you about things that I'm thinking about, things I'm reading, things I'm learning, good or bad. This is what I'm trying to do. Okay, that's it. Airbnb, we talk sometimes about what we get from, our visitors, for the transient occupancy tax. We talked about that. First year, 2018, we got 32,000, 19, 27, 20, 38, 21, 58, and 22, we almost got $64,000 from transient occupancy tax. And Airbnb is now mandated. We've only had 1 quarter of tax from them at this point, so we should see some rise in that. I read a quote that said, doing business or tourism without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. So most of those grants we get are focused on advertising. We're focused on reaching people in Charlotte, different areas. So, something on the plate. Any questions for me? Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a good 5 weeks.
What's that?
Been a good 5 weeks. Thank you.
Which brings us to our registered speakers and public comment period.
Need to add me. Add me as well. I didn't see it when I walked in. It was Laura.
While he's filling that out, I will remind everybody to try to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and that way we'll make sure that we have ample time to hear everyone and be respectful of each one as they do their comments. And first speaker I have is Michael McGuire. If you will, please state your address.
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Montgomery, and I reside at 113 Hillcrest Avenue here in Independence. I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church of Independence, and so I understand that you may not be addressing in the agenda something that I was coming here to speak to you, but I do ask for just a couple of minutes. We lift you up at our church in prayer. I lift you up daily. I know that you've got a hard job, and sometimes it seems very thankless because all you ever hear is the negative stuff. And I'll assure you that your position is not the only one that goes through that. Pastor Osborne can probably attest to that as well. But just wanted you to know that we lift you up and we pray for our county. I would ask you to just please continue to consider the ordinance for the sanctuary county here in Independence. I believe that we are who we are. People come here and we see it all the time. People move here for who we are. And so I think we've done a good job. We got a lot further to go in a lot of ways. But one of the other things I just wanted to draw to your attention is we at the First Baptist Church have been considering and are in the planning stages of possibly a daycare center at our church. And I know that's something that the county, we have a terrible addressment to this issue. I'm a grandfather of 3 under 2 years old, and I know that daycare is a big issue for us and our children. And I just wanted you to know that we are in the process of assessing that. Ms. Black has put us on to a couple of folks, and we've got a site visit with the Director of Social Services next week. Our building was built in 1954, so I'm not sure we can overcome some of the requirements that we would have to, but I just wanted to let you know that we are pursuing that, and we are serious about that. And just hope that we can do some other things in our county too. Not that we're not just sitting on the sidelines. We hear some of the things that you're saying and some of your concerns, and we want to be good participants in our community as well. So I would just ask you to continue prayerfully your consideration of our ordinance, and hopefully outside folks and won't determine what we as Grayson County, who govern ourselves, will do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, our next registered speaker is Tracy Cummins.
Tracy Cummins, 743 Powder Road, Elk Creek, Virginia. Thank you all know me. I do want to make it clear before I speak that I'm not a politically driven person, but I am a pro-life person, and I do want to talk about that. Now, I'm pro-life despite the fact that I live among the deadly Christmas tree chemicals. Stay on that one. Yeah. But I am happily enjoying the pursuit of my life more abundantly here in the 21st century with the Gigabeam. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. And the noise you heard earlier was me beeping. I've got lots of alarms and bells and whistles, but none of them have gone off in the middle of the night since Tom hooked me up. All right, so thank you all. Y'all are wonderful, and I appreciate you, and I tell people how wonderful you are. So you got my vote, okay? But I didn't exactly tell you my whole battle with this insulin pump issue. And I'll share a little bit of it with you because it kind of gets into a pro-life issue. Basically, I want to stay alive, so I'm kind of pro-life. But I am a mother of 3 living children, 2 of which I was strongly encouraged to abort. My oldest, Ryan, was supposed to have Down syndrome. He doesn't. He's fine. And I was told that if my youngest, Brant, survived the pregnancy, that I went to the doctor once a week for the entire pregnancy, and at the end, I went every other day. But I was told that he would not live through the 3rd trimester, and if he did live, he would have multiple neurological deformities, heart deformities, because of type 1 diabetes. He's a healthy 23-year-old that's probably in the top of a tree somewhere. He's living life to the fullest. I thank God that I had the resources and the support to get through that trying pregnancy because it was tough. But I trusted God, and I had people around me that helped me. But I do want you I do want to make clear that doctors are there to help us. They don't know everything. In this case, they didn't. They strongly encouraged me to abort this child. I mean, they looked me dead in the face and said, this is not good. I'm glad I didn't listen. People make mistakes, but God doesn't. He knew what he's doing. I'm pro-life for children. Okay. I've also suffered a miscarriage at the end of the 1st trimester. And it required a DNC, which is a procedure just like an abortion, except my baby had died of natural causes. And yes, this was a baby. My body went through all of the changes that it goes through when someone has a full-term baby. I even got milk. And I woke up in the middle of the night thinking I was hearing the baby crying. Couldn't find this child. I thought I was losing my mind. Nobody had prepared me for that part of the journey. And I cannot imagine what a woman who did that voluntarily would go through. I cannot imagine, and it breaks my heart to think of anyone having to suffer that without having some type of counseling, some type of forewarning. Look, it's not just physical. It's going to mess you up. Hormonally, it messed me up, and that lasted for a while. But that still haunts me today, 27 years later. I didn't choose to do that. So I cannot fathom what people would go through in that position. And because of that, I'm pro-life for those mothers. I'm pro-life for them. Now, some about my latest fight with this Omnipod 5 insulin pump. I didn't tell you the whole story because it has to do with Governor Northam. And I try not to get political. But this was a problem because I needed Governor Northam to sign a document that allowed my Virginia insurance to let me get this insulin pump through my Virginia insurance. His office did not respond to me the times that I reached out to him. And I later found out that in the newspaper, they had passed 80 bills that would allow me to get an abortion through my insurance in Virginia, but no life-saving help through my insurance in Virginia. And I just want you to know that because in my experience, people who are not pro-life at the most innocent stage don't really care about your life later either. He didn't. Luckily, Israel Quinn answered my emails, and his office is the one that got Governor Northam to sign the document. So I do want you to know that. People that are not pro-life, at the most innocent, aren't gonna care about you later. It's my experience. Now, please understand, I don't mean to get controversial, but I am pro-life for people with health concerns and conditions. Now, I'm just stating facts, but I am for this sanctuary of life. And in a way to show you how much I am for it, I have even reached out to Mr. Montgomery. Several people in the community are interested and concerned and want to see what it takes to open some type of pro-life, pro-crisis pregnancy center, pro-family center. And like he said, with a daycare, we need more than just infant care. We need every step of life, help and care and support. And I would encourage anyone who's interested to please call me, contact me, friend me on Facebook, reach out to First Baptist Church. We're going to be, Lynn Roberts and I are going to be really looking into that over the summer and to see what we need to do to get that offered here. And I want to work with you guys in that as well. So I do ask your support for that. I do think that we need to stand as the body of Christ, to not just stand on a soapbox and say what we can't do. Let's stand on the soapbox and say, hey, this is what we can do. This is what God tells us to help you with. And I think that we would all agree on 1 John 3:18. Let us not love with words or speech, but by our actions and deeds. Okay? As we declare the right to life more abundantly, the liberty to be born, and the true pursuit of happiness for all created in the image of God. Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks. Pearson?
Hello. Welcome, Mr. Boyer. I'm Mary Nell McPherson. I live at 297 Mountain Breeze Lane, just off Beach Bottom Road, north of town. Kevin and I were fortunate to buy that land 35 years ago. And even though I've only been a permanent resident for about 3 years, my roots go way back in Grayson County. My grandpa was from Rural Retreat. My grandma Lucy Cornett, Combs Rock. I'm sure I got cousins around. And in many ways, I've come home to Grayson County, and I'm grateful for that. I'm also an ordained elder in the Presbyterian Church, and every day I pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, among many other prayers. And the thing I know for certain is that people of faith, of deep faith, struggle hard with complicated issues and come to difference of opinions. Complicated issues are rarely cut and dried, like the one of the ordinance before you that folks are speaking to tonight. And I would say, no matter your opinion about abortion, this is not good for our community. As elected officials, we depend on you to be thoughtful and deliberative, to govern for the common good for all people. And this is not a simple issue. You've heard from all kinds of folks about all kinds of aspects of this issue. The thing I want to encourage you, I want you to believe that if you vote no on this issue, you're not voting against life. As these guys have said, there are many life-affirming things that we can do in our community for children and their families. We do it through education. We do it through healthcare. We do it through high-quality childcare and after-school programs. We do it for job opportunities for their parents, so parents will have enough to raise their children in the ways that they choose. And I encourage you not to let yes or no on this ordinance be reduced to that simple issue of pro-life or not pro-life, because it's more complicated than that. I want you to lead for us in a way that makes folks all over the place say, look at those people in Grayson County. Look what they've done. They have figured out how to disagree in love, as we are called to do. They have figured out how to respect each other's opinions and how to work for a community where every single child gets to grow into their potential, to become who God created them to be. And we can support children and families in doing that so that folks will move here, so that there will be plenty of health care for all people in ways that we can live together in love. I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Next registered speaker, Mr. David Osborne.
I'm David Osborne, pastor of Mountain View Baptist Church. I reside at 248 Mountain View Road in Independence, about 3/10 of a mile from where I was bred and born. Lived that area for 63 years now, and I am very blessed to be a part of Grayson County, Virginia. Thank you guys again for everything that you do for our community. I wouldn't want your job, so I'm not running for it. Thank you for what you do. I want to speak on the ordinance for sanctuary cities for the unborn. As we see on our wall here before us, in God we trust. I just want to speak with you tonight, not my opinion, my thoughts, my philosophy, my ideology, if you want to call it that. But what does God say about life? What does God say about the precious children in the womb of a mother? As I see this precious little girl here before us today. God tells us in his word, and I'm not going to have time, that we are fearfully and wonderfully made in the very image of God. We are the crown of his creation, Psalms 8 tells us, crowned with his honor and his glory. That we, Psalms 139, 13 through 16, that we are knit together in the very depths of our mother's womb by the very finger of Almighty God. And while we are yet but an embryo in the mother's womb, and that's when life begins at an embryo. We are recorded in God's book of the living, every detail about us. We're all one of a kind, a work of art, a masterpiece of Almighty God. God tells us that. And science has finally caught up with it. We got a thing called DNA that tells us the same thing. I'm glad we're finally catching up with God. Concerning life, Mr. Boyer stated that we need to grow our population here in Grayson County. What better way to grow our population than to protect the life that God blesses us with? Just what God says, not what I say, about life, about abortion, about tearing apart those special creations of mother's womb, Proverbs 6:16. These 6 things that the Lord hates, yea, 7 abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood. Let me ask you, what is more innocent than an unborn babe in the mother's womb? God hates the sin, but does not hate the sinner. We need to understand that. God even has in his holy word, in God we trust, he has laws concerning the protection of the unborn babe in the mother's womb. Exodus 21, 22, and 25. If men strive, or men get in a fight and hurt a one with child, so that her fruit depart from her, that she delivers prematurely, and yet no mischief follow, no harm to the mother or no harm to the child, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judge is determined. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. God could be no more clear than that unborn babe and that mother is to be protected. And God could not be more clear than who is supposed to protect and speak out for that unborn babe. Proverbs 31, 8, 9. Open thy mouth for the dumb, those that have no voice, those that are speechless, those that cannot speak for themselves. In the cause of all that is such are appointed to destruction. God tells us we are to speak out. And he also tells us if we don't speak out, Proverbs 24, 11, 12, if thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, if you don't do everything you can to prevent that, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not, does not he that pondereth the heart consider it? And he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? God knows our heart. He knows if we don't do everything we can to protect these unborn babes, special creation of God in the mother's womb. And the Bible is clear that we will all stand before God one day to give an account. So we will all stand before God one day to give account for what we done on this issue. If we took a stand to protect the unborn babe, to make Grayson County a sanctuary city for the unborn, to grow our county, to trust in God, to allow these special creations that God has created to be a part of Grayson County, to see what God can do with them. So I encourage you, I know you're getting a lot of opposition. I encourage you, do not fear man, but fear God. Thank you.
Next registered speaker is Lester Palmer.
Lester, you're on, man. You're just here?
You want to speak?
No, that is
We have you down as accounted for then. Yeah. Jason.
My name is Jason Ben. I've been coming up here speaking about my concerns about the broadband pilot project, and I don't think it's been made clear enough. My concerns is not.
Would you mind stating your address for us?
It's on the paper.
I know. Just so the public knows.
110 Mountain View Avenue. I had a different prepared speech, but it seems like you guys just made a maneuver to throw gas on, make one mistake quicker. The issue is not the gigabeam necessarily, it's Facebook. The same company that was fined billions of dollars. Rural Virginia County plugs into Facebook's data centers. That is what this is about. Facebook's data centers, they censored the president of the United States. I don't care who the president is. No tech company should have the ability to censor. Google's doing the same thing. Facebook's doing the same thing. Here's Facebook's. Y'all somehow had a video with some residents here, so y'all knew about it. But this is from their own thing. And they say that they're using the excess fiber within the data centers. What happens if Facebook goes away? They're not doing too well. What happens to our broadband project? Right now, they're losing money, they're losing employees, they're losing everything. We're on the verge of a complete technological breakthrough. I mean, Starlink's available. I mean, you get better, but faster speeds right now and have it shipped to your door within 3 days than the wireless service that Gigabeam's going to offer. Now, if you get fiber, if you happen to be one of the very few that's going to get fiber to the home, you might be lucky. I've even had the local newspaper write stories trying to debunk the stuff that I've said. Nothing I've said here is untrue, and nobody said to debunk it. They've just attacked me and attacked the information, and they won't tell me. The owner of Gigabeam will not provide me the contract between them and Facebook and how that arrangement's done. It's all done, they say it's proprietary secrets. That's my concern, is we've got big tech coming into the area. Out of the last 2 or 3 years, what we've seen big tech do. Now it might be working for one side of the political spectrum, but those tides are changing. The other issue that I've seen with the APCO getting the right of ways, that was done because of a Virginia law that allowed that to be done, to not go back and pay the landowners more money for each time they want to run a line. So now they don't have the APCO to worry about. They've got communication companies that they got to worry about coming on and access the line. I mean, if that law changes, all of this goes away, right? And if it was ruled that it shouldn't have been done in the first place, and if Facebook gets in a lot of trouble, where does that leave Gigabeam? That's my concerns. I mean, if private companies, if this was a profitable endeavor and it was good, private companies would have been putting this thing in a long time ago. You know, the reason why your phones and your phone internet's not working is because when I first moved here, I had to complain to the FCC several times. And the FCC is not doing any enforcement in the area. That's why it's been allowed to do. They've allowed the phone company and the DSL companies to make it so they can move big tech and Facebook in. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis. That concludes, public comment portion of the agenda. So, is there any correspondence or anything you've been received in the office? Next, under Board of Supervisors time, there's no one that's requested that. So, that brings us to closed session. The chair would entertain a motion to go into closed session. This would be related to investment of public funds or completion of or bargaining is involved pursuant to 2.2-37A11A6 of the Code of Virginia involving revised funding for broadband. So moved. Motion to the board. I have a second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion, without any discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. The chair will take reconvene about 15 after for a brief recess. I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance tonight.
I agree with this.
And it's been run pretty cool.